Hi, what is the custom field in MS Project? Option for custom field is available in the Format tab over here. Additionally, if we go to the right click option over here, we can see the custom field here as well. Before we move into that, we can notice that when we try to include another column over here, we get the option for text fields available, which go up to 30 over here. And then if we try number, for example, we can see number fields also available, which go up to 20 over here. So there are 30 text fields and 20 number fields available. We can pick up, for example, the number field or the text field from the task and the resource sections. The task fields will not go into resource section and the resource field will not go into the task section. We have to make separately for these two sections. If we check the resource sheet window over here, you can notice that there are regular employees that we have marked as resources over here. In case we have some additional resources coming from outside the company, for example, we can mark them as these, for example. Say, for example, John, Lakshmi, Rameshwar. We got these people as coming from outside, for example. So we can say John, then Lakshmi, then Rameshwar. These are basically coming from some outside agency. So we can mark them as outside over here. Press Ctrl D to copy that down. And we can see that the default calendar has been associated with this. Default rates have been associated with this as an outside agency persons. But we cannot really understand who are coming from outside unless we've got a group available in this case. Let's go to the Gantt chart. And here we try to create the custom fields available. So we can go to the Format tab over here. So let's pick up, for example, the text field over here. We can rename this as a resource and mark it OK. And we can leave the field as it is only and try to label the way we like it, for example. So let's try to apply direct labeling for the text field available. And we've created this in the task section, for example. We are not applying any of these checks available over here. Simple OK in this case. And the field is called resource, for example. So we can say resource in this case. And we get the text one field available as a resource in this case. Enter. And we can make the entry in this case. For example, if we go to adding up the new resource, for example, finishing up a particular task is the responsibility of another resource. And we can open that and mark, for example, John as the resource available. Then we can easily mark this person as coming from outside. So I can say outside. The point is I can't go to the group entry and then pick up the group category over there. But the resource I can do because that is created manually over here. Let's come in over here, for example, and say pick up Lakshmi over here. Outside over here as well. And so on and so forth. We can try to keep adding some such resources. For example, if we try to combine over here, one more resource available, say for example, Rameshwar in this case, we do the addition in this case and say we are trying to work with outside resource as well. Now, if we want to look at the entries available for the outside resource, for example, we can do that here. We can apply the filter in this case and pick up the data set available, which is only for outside people available. Click OK. I can categorize these people separately and get to know who are the people from outside, for example, and can be responsible for certain activities, for example. Let's clear that. Additionally, what we can do is we can try to work on another field. For example, if we clear that, for example, we might as well add another field available, for example, that can be report to, for example. Let's try that. Custom field again. And then we try the next entry over here. So I say report to, for example. And we need to apply the lookup values in this case. That can be, for example, the drop-down values that we need to apply over here. Lookup values, for example, required in this case. So report to HR head, finance head, or admin head, for example. We can have the description available for these as well on the right side. and maintain that description available, whatever the positions might be. These are ignorable. We can add them when required, for example. So HR, for example, can take in the training portion covered over here. Finance can go for functional understanding, and admin can go for logistics, for example. Done. And then we close that, for example, over here. Now we've got another field available called report to, for example, but these are the task fields available. So if I go to the resource sheet later, we can see that those won't be available there. We'll check this later. Let's try to add the task field available here for the report to option in this case. So click on that and go for report to. In this case, we get the option available over here. I can now go and apply the drop down in this case, and we get the description along with this. Say HR head, for example, and then for example the finance head, then for example the finance head again. So we can try to apply that when required. We can open any drop down in Microsoft applications by using Alt down arrow, for example. Apply this, that becomes fairly easy without moving the mouse pointer anywhere. You can fairly go to any of these options available and apply these. This way I can really go to the report to field also and try to filter on any of these options available over here. So I can say, for example, check only for HR in that case and get these entries available like that. That is the way I can really filter that and get to know which are the HR head people available in my organizations who are reporting to HR head, for example. Additionally, if I go to the resource sheet, for example, as mentioned earlier, I can notice that if I try to add a field over here, will that work? Insert column, for example. Let's try report to. It doesn't show that over here. Correct. If I try resource, for example, it doesn't show that over here. Resource source is something else in this case. Okay, these are other resource source that we have done earlier. Additional fields taken for the resources only, but the resource that we created for the task is not available here. So this is another copy of the way we can do it, own and vendor, for example. So this can come from vendor, for example, and this can come from vendor, for example. Again, this can come from vendor, for example. But then when we go to the Gantt chart, for example, and try to include that over here, say add new here, and we say resource, we cannot see that source available in this case. Resource source is not available here. So we can't really check the resource field in the task section and task field in the resource section. We can do the checkings in the respective areas only. That's how we can really work on these particular fields. Plus we can add some formula fields also when required. These can really help us in adding up some formula. For example, days left across my finish date and days passed over my start date, for example. Finish date is more important. We'll always like to see, in case my project is on a progress, for example, how many days are left to a particular task, for example. So we can keep that entry available in the form of a computation formula for that matter. For the current field, for example, if you try to make a default entry when we add on your record, for example, over here, say for example, we add the new entry over here, new task, for example. What do I get here? I get nothing as far as my report to field is concerned. So I'll clear that task from here. Shift space, select entire record, Control minus to delete that, and then go back to the custom field again, for example, over here, and pick up report to available in this case, and open that lookup section once again, and try to make a default entry in this case. For example, HR head is the default entry because all trainings go through the HR head only, for example. So I can pick up this as my default entry in this case. As I close that, for example, over here, and OK that, and make the new entry here, for example. So new task entry, for example, this column report to should be giving me a default entry of HR. Tab in this case, you can notice that HR head is declared over here as a default entry. So that is the way we can really go over to create the default entry also available in the custom field in MS project. Plus more learning about the formula field in the real project, in the real learning. See you in the real learning. Thank you. Bye-bye.